In this segment, we're going to demonstrate how to run and configure a flow test. Before we can run a flow test, we need to prime our pump. So I'm going to show you a cool feature that we have built into the IPA-3100. If we actually go to the drain mode, that will force fluid to be pumped through the unit. And if you've ever worked with the Alaris pump before, you'll know, and most infusion pumps, they're very sensitive to bubbles. So we have to prime the tubing in order to make sure we get all the bubbles out of the system. Now we can see the fluid passing through the tubing here. And we know if we leave any of these bubbles in there, the pump is going to complain, it's going to cancel the test, it's going to have lots of problems. So what we can do is just leave the infusion pump analyzer in the drain mode, and it's going to continue to pump all of these bubbles out. And now here we can see that some bubbles are stuck in the tubing, right? If I were to run a flow test with that, the bubbles may come through and cancel my test. So all I have to do is flick the tubing a little bit while we're in this drain mode, and it's actually going to pull fresh fluid all the way through. And now we got a bubble stuck down here. We just get that to flow through the unit. There's another one. And once we get all of these out of the tubing, I want to make sure we knock these loose. Now they're past the bubble detection sensor, and we should be ready for testing. Okay, so I'll stop the drain mode, and now we can load the cartridge and continue with our flow test. Okay, now we have the tubing primed. We're ready to load the cartridge into the pump. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Now we go to flow test, and this shows us the configuration for the flow test that we're going to run. We can pick a start mode, which is either manual or auto. The manual will start the test immediately when I hit start on the analyzer. Auto, I can start the test and it won't actually start counting time until it detects flow. That makes it more automated for me. So I'm going to go ahead and select auto. The volume is how much volume we're expecting to deliver. The flow rate is the expected flow rate. These are used for calculating percent error. And then the duration is how long we think the test should run. So we can pick our end condition to be either manual stop, or based on the duration that we programmed, the volume that we programmed, or duration and volume. It has to meet both conditions. So I'm going to set it to volume just to be able to run our test. We hit proceed to test, and now it's ready to go. So the IPA-3100 doesn't know that I primed, because I primed using the drain function, so I kind of tricked it. So now it thinks you need to prime. Well, we just did that. So prime is done, it's ready to go. And now we need to configure the infusion pump. So I'm going to turn that on here and configure the pump to match the settings that we have on the infusion pump analyzer. We're going to let the system boot up. And configure the channel. We said 200 milliliters per hour and 20 milliliters, and now it's ready to go. The IPA-3100 screen shows me the configuration at the bottom. I've got my programmed volume, flow, duration, and end condition. At the top it tells me that it's ready to start, so it's ready to go. And I have my start button right here, so all I have to do is press that, and now it's ready to start the test. It's waiting for the flow to begin. Once it detects flow, then it's going to start the time. If I had select manual for the start mode, the timer would be running right now. It would be accumulating time. And it calculates the flow rate by volume over time. So this allows me to do whatever configuration I need to on the pump. I don't have to worry about pushing this button and pushing that button at exactly the same time. The auto mode just waits, and as soon as it detects flow, it starts measuring. So I started the flow on the pump, and then I've got measurements on the screen. So it's going to show me the average flow. Up at the top is the instantaneous flow. And what we'll see, this number is going to bounce around a little bit because, you know, inside the pump it has fingers that it's using, and sometimes it moves faster and it has to cycle through those fingers. So that instantaneous flow is going to be all over the place. we've got a accumulated time at the top, and then our measured volume and average flow shown in the middle of the screen. Now, the calculated error, it looks really large right now, again, because it's using the configuration that I had initially. I told it I was going to do 20 milliliter dispense, and I'm not anywhere near that right now. So once we get to the end of the test, that's when we can compare the volume. But the average flow runs continuously as the test is running. Now we can also see that we can't get out of the screen because the test is active. So really, when you're running the test, you need to stay in the screen. So we can go ahead and stop this test at any time just by pressing the stop button. We don't have to wait. The end condition is just an auto end. That's when the test will automatically stop if we want to configure that to happen. But I can go ahead and stop this test now, and we can hear in the background the pump is running internally to make sure that we don't have pressure built up in the system. That'll always happen in the background, that's normal. When I stop the pump, that will also stop because now I don't have any flow. So now we, at the top of the screen, we can see that the test is complete. It says done. We can save this record to our data log by pressing the save function here. And I'll show you another setting later on in another video. We'll show how to do autosave so that I don't have to worry about remembering to press that button at the end of the test. But if I don't want to save every single test that I do, I only want to save select records. This shows the manual save. That's been saved. I can go back and run another test. I can change my configuration and run a different flow rate or a different volume and continue on with that. Now, I also have a tab over here for DUT information. That allows me to save the information about the DUT that I'm testing, the device under test. In this case, I've got a Alaris infusion pump. We can change any of these fields by just clicking on one of the fields and changing the information there. This is also where it's handy to have the stylus. If I get into some of these keys and they're a little too small for me, or if I accidentally hit the wrong key, the stylus really is helpful for getting the exact button that you need. Okay? We can also clear all of the text over at the right here by pressing the clear all. Just an easy way to enter information about the device under test. Now, if I'm really not worried about that information, I just want to gather data, I don't have to enter this data, but it does show up in the test record when I'm finished. It shows me what device was being tested and that the test record as well. So it's nice to enter that information if you would like that to be part of your record. That concludes flow testing using the IPA-3100. Watch our other videos for demonstrations of occlusion testing and the other settings on the IPA-3100.
Thank you for watching this BC Group International production. For more information about our extensive line of BC Biomedical products and products from our vendor alliances, browse BC Marketplace online at bcgroupstore.com. BC Group, we are your one-stop biomed shop.